Ever step on the scale and wonder, like, how did we get here?
Right.
We're doing a deep dive today into the Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung to uncover some surprising truths about weight loss, especially things that, your gym might not be telling you.
Yeah, and you know what's so fascinating about this book is Dr. Fung, he kicks it off with a real head-scratcher.
Okay.
Why are so many doctors overweight?
So?
It's a paradox, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They understand the body. They should, they preach healthy habits.
Right.
But they struggle just like the rest of us.
It's like that old joke, like, my doctor told me to lose weight, so I asked for a second opinion.
Right.
He agreed with you.
Exactly.
But seriously, I mean, it makes you question that whole, like, knowledge equals willpower idea.
Yeah.
Because if knowing was enough, wouldn't doctors be, like, the poster children for healthy living?
Precisely. And Dr. Fung uses this to challenge that traditional calories in, calories out model.
Okay.
It's not just about willpower. It's about understanding this complex kind of web of hormones, especially insulin,
Right.
that are influencing our weight.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole insulin connection, because I think a lot of us, we associate insulin with diabetes,
Right.
not necessarily with just, like, weight gain in general.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Insulin's role, it goes way beyond just blood sugar regulation.
Correct.
Think of it like a master switch that controls how your body uses and stores energy.
Okay.
So when you eat, especially carbohydrates like, bread or pasta,
Right.
your blood sugar spikes, right?
Right.
That triggers a surge of insulin.
And then insulin's job is to, like, shuttle that sugar from your bloodstream into your cells for energy.
Exactly. But here's where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
If we're constantly bombarding our bodies with these high levels of insulin, thanks to a diet that's heavy in refined carbs, sugary treats our cells can actually become resistant to it.
So it's like our cells are saying, enough already with the sugar deliveries.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And just like a pizza delivery person that keeps knocking on the door and no one's answering, that insulin-carrying glucose, it has nowhere to go. It ends up stored as fat, oftentimes around the midsection.
Ugh, that explains so much. But before we get too deep into insulin resistance, I kind of want to rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Dr. Fung takes us on this really fascinating journey through, like, the history of dietary advice. And it's wild how much our understanding of fat, calories, and weight loss has changed, even over the last, like, few decades.
Absolutely. It's like a pendulum swinging back and forth.
Totally.
In the early 20th century, low-carb diets, they were all the rage. This guy, William Banting, even wrote a whole pamphlet about losing weight by cutting out sugar and starchy foods, and it was like common sense for decades.
So what shifted? Why did we go from low carb to, like, low fat being the magic bullet?
Well, a perfect storm of factors came together, but the demonization of dietary fat, I think, was a major turning point.
Okay.
This is what led to the widespread adoption of the calorie is king model.
Right.
Which, kind of pushed aside this more nuanced understanding of how different foods affect our bodies.
So basically we were told to ditch, like, the butter, the bacon,
Right.
in favor of low-fat everything. Yeah.
Like salads with fat-free dressing, skinless chicken breasts,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
You got it.
Yeah.
And ironically, this low-fat crusade, it backfired, kind of spectacularly.
Oh.
Food manufacturers, in an attempt to keep things palatable while slashing fat, they started pumping products full of sugar.
Oh, interesting.
The result,
Oh,
surge in sugar consumption.
of course.
And guess what? Obesity rates, they skyrocketed despite people consuming less fat.
It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Exactly.
It seems like we were so focused on one villain, which was dietary fat,
Right.
that we missed the rise of another, which was sugar.
And this brings us to a key concept in Dr. Fung's book, and this is the difference between what he calls proximate causes and ultimate causes.
Oh, okay.
He uses this, like, brilliant analogy. He compares it to a plane crash.
Yep.
Okay.
If we only focus on the proximate cause, which is the plane hit the ground,
Right.
we miss the critical, like, underlying factors that led to the crash in the first place.
So are you saying that, like, focusing on calories is like just looking at the plane wreckage without investigating why it fell out of the sky in the first place?
It's precisely. We need to understand the why behind the weight gain,
Right.
not just obsess over, the numbers on the scale.
Right.
And often those answers, they lie in our hormones and how they respond to the foods that we eat.
Okay, so it sounds like we've been going about this whole weight loss thing the wrong way. It's not about willpower or punishing ourselves at the gym.
Right.
It's about understanding this crazy dance of hormones happening inside our bodies.
Exactly.
But is there even a way to change the tune? Like, is it ever too late?
That's a great question. And Dr. Fung, he's very adamant that it's never too late to address those hormonal imbalances.
Okay.
Particularly that insulin resistance.
Right.
And kind of reset our bodies, what he calls like set weight.
Okay.
But it requires, a little bit of a paradigm shift.
Yeah, okay.
We need to stop blaming ourselves, right, for this lack of willpower.
Right.
And start to understand the underlying mechanisms that are actually driving our weight.
So it's like we've been trying to fix a broken clock by just moving the hands around. We got to get in there and address the gears.
Exactly.
So how do we actually do that? What's step one?
Well, Dr. Fung, he advocates for kind of a two-pronged approach, changing what we eat and when we eat.
Okay.
It's about choosing foods that work with our hormones, not against them. And giving our bodies a break from this constant influx of food.
Okay.
Especially those refined carbs that we were talking about.
Right. Those are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So it's not just about deprivation. It's about strategically fueling our bodies and giving them a chance to reset.
Exactly.
So let's start with the what. What does Dr. Fung recommend we actually put on our plates?
Well, he's a huge proponent of a whole food-based diet.
Okay.
That prioritizes real, unprocessed foods.
Okay.
And minimizes those refined carbohydrates, sugary drinks, and even artificial sweeteners.
Really?
Yeah, so think like vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, healthy fats, foods that our ancestors would actually recognize.
It sounds like a return to basics, which honestly can feel overwhelming in a world of fad diets and quick fixes.
I know, right?
But there's something appealing about simplifying things and getting back to the root of how we nourish our bodies.
Absolutely. And, it's about quality over quantity.
Right.
Choosing foods that support, our hormonal balance and our overall health.
Totally.
And speaking of balance, Dr. Fung really emphasizes that healthy fats actually play a really crucial role in weight loss.
Wait, healthy fats?
Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to avoid fat, at all costs.
That's what the low-fat craze of, these past few decades would have us believe.
Right.
But Dr. Fung, he argues that not all fats are created equal.
Okay.
In fact, he says that healthy fats, like those found in avocados, olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish, they're essential for satiety, hormone production, and overall health.
Okay, so ditch the donuts, but don't fear, the avocado toast, I guess.
Exactly.
It sounds like we really need to reframe our relationship with fat and stop viewing it as, the enemy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the second part of Dr. Fung's approach, and this is where things get a little more interesting, is intermittent fasting.
Fasting. Okay, I have to admit that word always makes me think about, deprivation and hunger pangs.
Yeah.
But we've been getting a lot of questions from our listeners about intermittent fasting lately.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it. What is it, and is it as scary as it sounds?
It's really not as scary as it sounds, I promise.
Okay.
Intermittent fasting isn't about starving yourself.
Okay.
It's about strategically timing your meals to give your body a break from that constant digestion and all those insulin spikes.
So it's less about what we eat and more about when we eat.
Exactly. There are a bunch of different methods, but one popular one is the 16-8 method.
Okay.
Where you fast for 16 hours a day.
Okay.
And restrict your eating to an 8-hour window.
So you might skip breakfast and have your first meal around noon.
Exactly. And this extended overnight fast allows your insulin levels to drop significantly.
Okay.
Which gives your body a chance to tap into its fat stores for energy.
So it's like flipping a metabolic switch.
Yeah.
Instead of burning sugar, we're burning fat.
You got it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So instead of constantly snacking and keeping our insulin levels sky high,
right,
we're giving our bodies a chance to reset and tap into those stored energy reserves.
Exactly. And the best part is you don't have to totally overhaul your life to make this work.
Okay.
You can start gradually finding an eating window that fits your lifestyle.
Right.
And adjust as needed.
That makes sense. So we've been talking about how to get this hormonal dance party back on track.
Right.
How do we actually lose the weight?
Yeah. So Dr. Fung, he says we need to change the tune, basically.
Okay.
We need to choose foods that work with our hormones, not against them.
So what does that look like in practice?
So he suggests a two-pronged approach, changing what we eat and when we eat.
Okay, makes sense.
It's not just about deprivation.
Right.
It's about giving your body a break
Okay.
so it can reset and heal itself.
So I'm guessing refined carbs are still public enemy number one.
Oh, absolutely.
What about sugar?
Sugar is definitely a major culprit.
Okay, so those are out. What's in?
Think whole, unprocessed foods. Things like vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, healthy fats.
Healthy fats. That seems kind of counterintuitive.
I know, right?
I thought we were supposed to avoid fat at all costs.
That's what the low-fat craze told us.
Right.
But it turns out not all fats are created equal.
Okay.
Healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, nuts,
Okay.
those are actually really good for us.
Interesting. So should we be like adding olive oil to our coffee now?
Not exactly.
Okay.
But you get the idea.
Moderation, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what we eat. What about when we eat?
Ah, yes. The second prong of Dr. Fung's approach. Intermittent fasting.
Fasting. I have to admit, that still makes me a little nervous.
I hear
It sounds kind of extreme.
It's really not as bad as it sounds, I promise.
Okay.
It's not about starving yourself.
Right.
It's just about giving your body a break from digesting food all the time.
Okay, so how does it work?
There are different ways to do it.
Oh,
But one popular method is called the 16-8 method.
okay. What's that?
Basically, you fast for 16 hours a day,
Okay.
and then you eat all your meals within an 8-hour window.
So you could skip breakfast and have your first meal at like noon.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And the idea is that this extended overnight fast,
Right.
it gives your body a chance to burn through its stored sugar
Okay.
and start tapping into fat for fuel.
So it's like flipping a switch from sugar burning to fat burning mode.
Exactly.
I like it.
And the best part is you don't have to overhaul your whole life to make it work.
Okay, that's good to hear.
You can start gradually, find what works for you, and adjust as needed.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about the obesity epidemic
Absolutely.
and how to approach weight loss in a whole new way.
Yeah.
It's not about willpower or deprivation.
Right.
It's about understanding our bodies
Exactly.
and working with our hormones to achieve lasting weight loss.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
If food is a celebration of life,
Yes.
maybe incorporating periods of mindful abstinence,
Right.
whether it's intermittent fasting or simply being more mindful of our eating habits,
Yes.
could be just as important as enjoying those celebratory meals.
Absolutely.
It's something to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Obesity Code.
My pleasure.